Welcome back to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Decker team. And today I have a special guest with me. I'm very excited about it because I'm Ken Decker with the Decker team, and I'm sitting here with Ken.
Ken and Ken.
Ken and Ken, which is awesome. And Ken, you're with a ministry downtown. And you might say, well, why would I be talking to a ministry leader when we're on a real estate show? And it's because Ken works with the homeless people, and we're in the business of finding homes for people. So I just thought it would be a great match for us to talk about the homeless, get your message out about the homeless and what people can do, and even what we might be able to do to help some of the homeless people.
Sure. Well, since 1988, Ottawa Innercity Ministries has been working with people experiencing poverty and homelessness in the downtown core. So can I say people? We don't work with the homeless. We work with people, just like you. You work with people. Mm-hmm. You don't sell homes. You work with people.
Yeah.
So we work with people who are experiencing poverty and homelessness, and whether it's a habitual systemic poverty and a generational, people who are raised in welfare and continue in welfare or worse, or whether it's someone who maybe just lost their job and they lost their house and they lost their family and they find themselves on the streets, or there are many different reasons why people can become homeless. So we come alongside people who are on the streets, who are marginally housed or housed at risk, and just we're a friend, and we provide opportunities to interact with folks. We try to meet their felt immediate needs, and then we work with people one-on-one to try to get them to achieve a higher quality of life.
Okay, excellent. So I know we've been personally involved somewhat in some of the fundraising events you've done. And one of the programs you do is for street youth, the youth that are on the street, working at getting them off the street, and really giving them a sense of worth, and a sense of well-being and pride in themselves. And so, tell us about that program a little bit. What you're doing with the youth.
Sure. In 2006, we initiated a program. A donor actually gave us enough money, because we're all privately funded. We don't receive government funding. A donor gave us money for us hiring a youth outreach worker for 3 years. It was like $30,000 a year for 3 years. It was a huge gift. And so we began to work with street kids. We've always worked with whoever we meet on our street outreach teams. So we actually lead the city in the number of outreach teams that are on the street each weeknight in Ottawa. So in Elgin Street and Bank Street and the Market, we work with whoever we come across. And as we work with kids, we decided we could actually target that audience. There's about 12 agencies that work with the adult homeless population in Ottawa.
Okay.
There's only 2 that work with youth. So here's a gap, where we could, plug in. So we did that. In 2006, with adult population, I initiated an art program where, since it is illegal in our city to create art on the street, and it's illegal also to sell art on the street unless you have a permit, we decided we could provide a venue and marketing opportunities for artists who are homeless. And it worked fine. In fact, in the 8 months that we had our program operating, we sold $14,000 worth of art, and we had about 18 people involved, from the street community. And but the big deal is not just the art that was sold, but 4 of our guys got housing. One of them entered into a program for drug rehabilitation, and that fellow is actually living in Hamilton today, and he's got his own little micro business, and he's doing art for the city of Hamilton.
That's fantastic.
So, but that's not actually answering your question. The next year, I decided to apply for funding again for this art program, but I didn't want to work with the adult population. I want to work with kids, and instead of providing money or resource in that sense for our participants, I decided I want to work with trying to build self-esteem and self-worth in young people who have never had it before. So we target kids who are primarily fleeing domestic violence in the home, and we work with them, and we try to find what they're interested in, and some of them are interested in art. So we plugged into that, and it's just really exceeded our expectations.
Now, so what age group would we be talking? I said youth, but
yes, that's a good question. So we go from 16 to 25, and the reason we go so far into 25 is because kids who leave home at 14 or 15 years of age get involved in drugs, or maybe they're already using drugs when they leave home because they're trying to deal with the pain of their home situation.
Right.
So they are often not developed in their full capacity. So we might have a person in a 25-year-old body, but with the capacity and thinking patterns of a 16-year-old or 17-year-old.
Okay. So you bring them in, you give them art lessons and give them supplies?
We feed them first. We give them
Okay.
a hot meal. We give them a safe place off the streets where they can just be themselves and be safe. And then we provide art supplies. We provide training, instruction if they want it. But most of the kids, they have an idea of what they want to create. And we allow them the freedom just to do whatever they want to do. So that seems to be working out really fine. And the results, as I mentioned, were really way exceeding our expectations. So we've had kids now from our program who have graduated, who are now, 2 of our kids are in college now as a result of our, it takes a whole community to turn a life around.
Yes.
But we had a part to play in that. And then, so we have kids entering drug programs for rehabilitation, kids entering educational programs, and kids getting housing. Last winter, except for one exception, for a period of a couple months, all of our kids were housed. And this is not church group kids here. This is not youth group. These are kids who are mainlining drugs, who are caught in prostitution, young men and women caught in prostitution, kids who are accessing no other services in the city, just us. We think that for about half our kids, we are the last resort. They come in and we've got about an 85% attendance rate, which just by itself is phenomenal. And so we provide the space, we provide a meal, we provide the tools, we provide some support, and in many cases, the kids think of what we do in that art program as family.
And so there isn't actually housing in your ministry.
Well, no, we don't have that. We are like limited in all the things we can do. But what we do with the kids and with adults, but particularly the kids, we work one-on-one with a mentor. We provide a mentor from the community, from the church community, for example.
Okay.
We train the mentor. We do like as a volunteer. And so the kids will meet with the mentor. They'll establish and set goals, and they'll work with that mentor to try to achieve those goals. So it could be housing, or it could be getting a health card. It could be anything, really. So we work with the youth in their area of need. Okay.
Excellent. And then, no, I don't think we even told them what the name of your ministry is. So if folks are just joining us, you're joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate. And today we have a very special guest, Ken MacLaren, with Ottawa Innercity Ministries. Is that
That's correct.
Said it right? Okay, great. And you work with people that are unfortunate or in a bad situation, that trying to help them move out of that situation and get off the streets.
Yep.
And find whatever resources that they need for where they're at.
Exactly.
And you really have both internally in your ministry as well as access to the right people to hook these people up.
That's right. Yeah. So we are one part of many different organizations and people that, as we look back, are pieces of the puzzle or building blocks toward the point where someone will get long-term help. And it's really working well. One of the challenges we are facing currently is that in our youth program we have 20 youth in a good-sized room, but that's 20 street kids with 5 mentors and 1 staff person, and that's 26 people in one room. And we could have more kids involved in the program, but we don't have the resources for them. We don't have the space, and we don't have the money, the resources to build the program up.
Right.
And so we're looking for help in that area to grow this in an appropriate way.
So there's more youth on the streets than. Do you have any idea of how many youth are typically on the street?
Youth Services Bureau downtown sees about 800 kids a month, different kids. So with people, we would include people that would never access a social service agency, or kids that are, going through town, or, not permanent, or kids that are couch surfing. There might be 1,000, as many as 1,000 young people on our city streets in this great, national capital region. And
we really don't see them.
No, you wouldn't.
Typically.
No, in fact, I've been downtown on Bank Street, and I parked my car, and I've been waiting for an appointment, or waiting to see someone, or waiting to get into a coffee shop or whatever, and I see people walk down the street, back and forth and back and forth, and I know these guys. I know who they are. I know they're homeless, or I know they live in the shelter, or I know they live in a rooming house that's not really good living conditions.
Right.
No one else would know. How can you tell?
Right, you wouldn't.
So you don't, it's not always the person who's panhandling, not always a person who's trying to squeegee your window. It's not always a person who's asking for spare change. Most people don't do any of those things that are homeless. They're just,
is that right?
Well, nationally, 40% of the homeless population has mental health issues. Another 40% has addictions to drugs, alcohol. Right. And then there's the area where people have both. It's called concurrent disorders. They have both addictions and mental health issues. So it's a very difficult population to work with, and you don't see all of the ramifications of how that affects our culture and our society.
So there's about 1,000 what you would call youth, sort of 16 to 25.
Yes.
Approximately 1,000. And you have in your program only a very small sample.
Very small sample, yes. Right. But you know what? It's not really an easy population to work with, to tell you the truth. I mean, the way we invite people into our programs is we find kids on the street, so we connect with kids on the street, we build relationship with them, and it takes quite a bit of courage for that young person to come to a program in a church, for their own background. We actually also find kids on the street that never come to our program at all. In fact, I'll tell you a story. Our youth team had met two young men, just came in from, we'll say, Cornwall. It's not the town, but so we'll say Cornwall. It's about that distance away. And these kids have been in Ottawa for 24 hours. One of them had already been beaten up. They had their stuff stolen. They were afraid to go to the shelters for fear of more abuse and more violence. And our outreach team met them. And we met them on one night. We met them again the next night. And the one young person said, "Man, I'd do anything to be home." And our worker picked it up just like that. He said, "You want to go home? You want to go home? Okay, stay right here, get your stuff. I'll be back in 15 minutes with a car." So the kid got his stuff, his buddy too. They packed him in the back of their car, drove them to this, say, Cornwall. Mm-hmm. And all the while they're talking about, home and family, how important it is. By the time they were just on the outskirts of Cornwall and heading close to their apartment building, they were jumping up down in the back seat and all excited about going home. They got out of the apartment building, they opened the door, they ran up the stairs, and the mom was so happy to have her kids back.
Wow.
So that happens once in a while, Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen all the time. But every once in a while, we just get this little bit of a story or incident where we just say, you know what, this is worth doing. It's hard work, but it's worth doing this.
So it's like prodigal son watching that happen. It would have been like the prodigal son welcoming him home.
And like to actually be a part of that, mm-hmm. is just so cool. It's just so fantastic.
That's fantastic.
So we've had kids too who we had one girl, a young girl, very nice, quiet little girl, and she had to leave home because she was getting beat up too much. She didn't have any drug issues. She didn't have any mental health issues. She just got beat up too much.
Oh, that's too bad.
And I said, well, what's that look like? She said, well, it doesn't look good. It's feet, fists, elbows, stick, whatever. So she left home when she was like 15. And we found her when she was 16. She didn't feel like she was confident enough to come to the program. We said, it doesn't matter about your artwork. Just come be part of our group. And she did. In 2 years, she became a part of our work skills program, and now she's in her second or third year at Algonquin College, and she's making a way for herself.
That's fantastic.
We sold $1,600 worth of her artwork. The girl who couldn't do art, mm-hmm. at our first auction, she put that in the bank, put it aside. She said, "That's for my book when I write my book." "You want to read my book?" she said. I said, "Well, I'd like to, but I want to wait till you're finished at first."
Yeah. So
we get those little stories every once in a while, and it's just enough to keep us going, because the reality is, most of the people that we help, we don't know about their success or about how they do, because they never come back to the inner core. They never connect with us. They never come back downtown, because that's where they're going to get triggered. That's where they're going to be, enticed to go back to the old way, and they don't want to have anything to do with that.
So once they're out, they want to stay away from it.
Yeah, they don't come back, and that's okay, because we just are convinced that our job is to do what we're supposed to do and leave the results to God, basically. Mm-hmm. It's not our job to be successful. It's our job to be faithful.
Excellent. So if people are listening to our show and they might want to get involved, either physically coming to help or by giving a donation or something like that, how could people, our listeners and viewers, how could they actually help this ministry in Ottawa?
Well, the best way to do it is to really go online, ottawainnercityministries.ca, And there you can get, donate now button. You can get more information. There's video clips, there's pictures of the kids and their artwork. It's actually quite well done. There's a lot of visual and interactive stuff there. And you can get a much better perspective and much more information than I can give you in a few minutes. And or call us at 237-6031, and we'll be happy to make something available for you to help us.
So for the person that's driving and you just gave a number and you gave it very quickly, let's slow it down and give it again so they can call you.
All right, thanks. That's a good idea. So Ottawa InnercityMinistries.ca, and the number is 613-237-6031. And again, have a look, because really everybody should be involved in helping alleviate this problem of homelessness.
Yeah, I know it brought joy to my heart to watch and to bid on some artwork at some of the auctions. And to see the artists light up when they see people actually bidding for their piece of work that they did. It elevates their self-worth so hugely.
Absolutely.
More than one person wants it.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are kids that are leaving a home where there's violence and no encouragement, no building of self-esteem, no positive self-image. The kids really are told that they're worthless, that they're zero without the rim, that they're never going to amount to anything, and a lot worse, of course, as well. So yeah, you can imagine what happens when you and your neighbor and the other person who's at the auction says, "I want that piece. How much can I have that?" And the young person thinks, "Wow, so I have worth. I have value. Somebody wants to buy this that I just made." It could actually just be enough to change a life.
Yeah, I think the best one I remember is I was bidding on a piece and you had the picture up on the screen.
Yes.
And it was projected, and I never saw the original.
Yes.
But there were several of us bidding on it, and I forget what I bid it up pretty high.
Yes.
Because it was another realtor that was bidding against me, and there was no way I was letting her win. So we were having some fun, and then I got the piece, and the artist came over and said, "I feel so bad because it looked really big on the screen, and it was a postcard size piece of art." And so she gave me a second piece.
Oh, nice.
Saying, here, I really want you to have the second piece because, and actually it's framed up in my office on a desk. I have that piece sitting there.
Wow. So. And that makes such a difference. And you don't ever know that just like those words that you spoke, those words of encouragement could just be the first or maybe one of the very few words of encouragement that she's ever had in her life. We don't think of that because as normal people, we have family, we have friends, we go to church, we go to community group or Kiwanis or whatever. We have all kinds of input from people that, appreciate us. But if you've never ever had that before, and that sounds pretty extreme, but that's actually the case. That's actually the experience of some of our kids. They don't feel they're worth anything.
Yeah, that's very sad.
It is.
Because in God's eyes, we're all worthful. Right? We're all worthy.
And He loves us all the same, exactly the same.
Great. So I know the Decker team, we've decided what we'd like to do. We've supported you in the past. And what we'd like to do this year is if anybody calls in and says, "Hey, I heard your show," or "I watched it on your website," and we'll contribute 5% of our side of the sale, our portion of the commission, 5% to Ottawa Innercity Ministries on every sale that happens this year that they mention this radio show, or that they saw the video on our website.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much. That's a big gift. And you've been really supportive. Your team, remember this past year you gave us like, I don't know how many pairs of socks, but to help us, we could actually, so we do foot care for those that aren't aware, and you can see pictures of that on our website. We do foot care for people who really don't have the capacity to look after their own feet even. So, diabetics particularly have circulation issues. So we have volunteers that we soak someone's feet and we massage them after a few minutes, and powder and clean pairs of socks. And we've had people come in on a day where we have our drop-in when we offer the service that are wearing the same pair of socks since last week. And it's not like they're trying to be dirty or don't care or inattentive, just they don't have the capacity to function properly, behave as we normally would. So that's a great gift. I really appreciate that. The Decker team, it was like a van load of socks. It was like tremendous. It was wonderful.
Well, it came through CHRI actually with their share-a-thon.
Yes.
And each person that gave a donation, and I forget the amount, but Share-a-thon's going to be coming up again in the future, and we'll do the same thing again. Each donation, we donated some socks for each time. So
Yeah.
it was a little mountain of it. It was fun.
I remember the picture on the table, and it was just like just wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, and so you're still supporting adults
Absolutely,
as well?
Yeah, we try to get the whole gamut. We want to help people. I think we're noted in the city for how we touch people with care. So, some places touch people like grabbing them on the scruff of the neck and throwing them out the door. Well, we don't do that. So we do haircuts, we do foot care, as I mentioned. We have a chiropractor that comes in and does adjustments. We have a gal that does, a couple people that do back massage, light touch back massage. And then we have volunteers that come from the community and they just visit and sit down and talk with people. And that, I think, is one of the biggest gifts that we can give, the gift of ourselves, the gift of friendship. And that because they have no one else.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, as a matter of fact, I was very emotional because a couple of weeks ago, a young person came to our church, and we're a country church.
Yes.
And they came to our church with their dad, and he had been a street youth on the streets of Ottawa. Was doing, I think he told us LSD or something. So fairly, I guess that's a very heavy drug. And he was actually hit by a car on the street and had some major brain surgery and things like that. It happened to be a baptismal Sunday, and he had accepted the Lord. And this was actually Easter, afterward, he'd filled out a little card that he'd like to be baptized. So the pastor ran back in the sanctuary, put the plug back in the baptismal tank. We had, 8 or 10 inches of water, and everyone that was left that had been milling around enjoying the fellowship came back into the sanctuary, and we baptized this young fellow, and he's been out to church since. And to hear him talk, he's just totally transformed, and it's so exciting to see a life. What would you call it? A life renewed, or
yes,
yeah.
I know this young man, and one of the big things that we've experienced as kind of unexpected outcomes was the family members of some of our kids come to these art shows, and this young man was at an art show, featured a few pieces of his work, and both his parents were there, and in some capacity, in some way, we are seeing family members brought back together through art.
I noticed that actually.
It's like phenomenal. Now, none of the other programs, or very few of the other programs, have that as an outcome, because I think the reason is that the kids don't invite into their family members. So if there's a program, for example, or a show on safe sex, or safe injection, or AIDS, or sexual transmitted disease, or whatever, they're not going to invite their parents to come to that. Yeah. But they will invite their family members to come to an art show. And we've experienced that, and we've seen that. And I think the last show we had, 8 of the kids had parents or some relatives come to see their work.
That's amazing.
And I'll tell you, those family members are keen to buy that piece of artwork as well. And that just, that also adds to the whole buildup of the outcomes for the kids, for psychologically and self-esteem and self-worth. And it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of. It's a privilege for me, really, to be a part of this.
That is so fantastic. And
it's amazing.
And you can tell that they're proud of what they're doing if they're inviting their parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some of them have broken relationships with their parents that they're still inviting because it's a safe environment for them to interact, because there's still love there.
Yes,
in many cases, right? There's some love in the underneath all the hurt. There's still some love for family members. And so
one of our young people, has just been part of our program for about 3.5 years, and her story is just amazing. And she actually came to our volunteer training, and took our volunteer training, and now is going to do outreach with our youth outreach worker to work, to help the kids that she knows on the streets. And who better to understand that culture than someone who actually comes from there?
Someone that was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so now you talked about people that wash feet and people that cut hair and give light massage, Is there opportunity for others to get involved in that? We talked about financially donating
Yes.
or going on the website, but they can also get involved in that type of thing.
Oh,
or preparing
absolutely.
a meal or serving a meal.
Yes, well, we have, there's two answers to the question. One is about the volunteering. We have 3 volunteer training sessions each year where we help people understand the culture and boundaries and safety issues and drugs and all that stuff, kind of fast tracking, because it's a different culture than what we are living in. And so we train people and then we help them to find their place in this whole scheme of things. Additionally, we have opportunities for people to make meals and to serve meals at our events. So Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, about 3 weeks after the actual holiday itself, we do a meal. And because, by that time people are looking for help, and they are, so many people give turkey dinners and stuff.
At that time of year, so to do it later.
To do it later is quite meaningful, very popular. I think a couple of other agencies have adopted that too. So there's opportunity for you to bring your young people, teenagers. Sometimes even with supervision, you can bring your child to experience what it's like to serve people from this community.
Okay. And so if someone really is getting a heart for what you're talking about and that ministry, give us that number one more time, nice and slow this time.
Okay.
I almost didn't get it the second time, so slow it down.
613-237-6031, or visit ottawainnercityministries.ca.
Okay, so you've been listening to the Inside Track on real estate, and we've been talking with Ken MacLaren from Ottawa Innercity Ministries, a great ministry in the downtown core, supporting our fellow residents of Ottawa who maybe don't have a home right now or in substandard homes. And so if you feel like you want to get involved, please do. And also remember that the Decker team, for the rest of the year, if you mention this show or the video, that we will donate 5% of our side of the commission to Ottawa Innercity Ministries to help out with this very worthwhile program. And that's about a wrap for today. I'm so excited that we had this time, Ken. And we look forward to the next Inside Track on real estate with the Decker team. Talk to you next week.
Thanks.